And just before the news there, you heard Robert Pattinson and Guy Pearce talking about their new film, The Rover, which is out in cinemas today. What's your take on the film, Robbie?
Yeah, we didn't talk a lot in the interview about the film's plot, and that's actually because there isn't really any plot to talk about. It is sparse to the point of being threadbare, and that's absolutely the idea with this. It begins with Guy Ritchie's character. He's called Eric in the credits, but actually I think throughout the film I don't remember him ever actually being called anything. No. He's just there in this bar in the middle of the outback, and some thieves crash their car outside. These three bandits who are obviously prowling around after some burglary. They crash their car and they steal Guy Pearce's character's car, and Guy Pearce hits the road and tries to get the car back. And the whole film is about him trying to find this car. What's in the car, we don't know until the very end, but it is very important to him that he finds it. And he meets Robert Pattinson's character on the way. He's this guy called Ray. He's one of the brothers of one of the bandits and is in a very bad way at the side of the road. And so they form this kind of unlikely alliance, kind of travelling over this post-apocalyptic, blasted outback landscape. And that's kind of all there is to it. The film is about watching people surviving in this this place. We know that something terrible happened 10 years ago called the collapse. It's not elaborated upon, but it seems to have sparked some kind of a second gold rush, perhaps, of people coming from all over the world to Australia, because this is a place where a living can be scratched out. We see trains shuttling across the landscape carrying some kind of ore or minerals. So obviously people are perhaps panning for the minerals that are in the Australian soil, selling them somewhere. But it's all about the kind of survival instinct and how people are getting by. I think it's got a very strong Western feel to it. It is set in the future, but it's not really that science fiction-y. Mad Max is an obvious parallel for an Australian outback sci-fi movie.
It's not
like Mad Max at all. No, it's very sparse, very pared down. And something it does very cleverly is it pairs up the desolation of the outside landscape, the outside world that these characters are living in, with their own interior landscapes, which have been totally wasted away. We find out that Guy Pearce's character, something bad happened in his life. I won't elaborate on what it is.
No, we don't like spoilers.
But something bad happened around the same time as the collapse happened. Were they connected? We don't know. But there was some kind of a unity there. So the outside world has kind of fallen apart, as also his interior world has done. And so it's about kind of matching up the desolation with what these characters are feeling. I think this is a really, really great role for Robert Pattinson. Can we talk for a bit about Robert Pattinson's face? Because this was a face that was not perhaps, I generally quite like the Twilight films, but I think his face was not capitalised on them. But he has this incredible face that's kind of, it's partway frozen between Clark Gable and Klaus Kinski. It's very, very handsome, but it's also very crazy. And like Kinski, he's able to do crazy very convincingly, not just kind of bouncing off the walls, but a kind of a deep-seated, stewed in his bones craziness that he does very well. He is out for revenge. Obviously, people have abandoned him that he didn't want to abandon them. So he's kind of psyching himself up for this big revenge showdown. We talked a bit in the interview about this scene in which Pattinson's character sits in a car singing along to a pop song, and it's in the dead of night, and his face is just isolated by the light from the dashboard, and it's a beautiful, fantastic, atmospheric moment. I think this is probably a more fun film to talk about than it is to watch. I think it sets up a lot of very fascinating themes and doesn't necessarily do much with them. For the first 20 minutes, you think, my goodness, this is going to be the film of the year. There's a really excellent prologue where Pearce's character catches up with the thieves first, and then something happens and he loses them. Yeah. And you think, this is just great, this is great. And then it slightly stalls there. I know that's the idea, and I know it's not meant to give you much to go on, but I'm kind of sad that it didn't give you more.
It's bleak and it's pretty dark as well. Do you know the only thing that let it down for me was the ending? And obviously I'm not going to say anything about that because we don't like spoilers, as I said, but that was the only thing for me that let it down. And I was completely taken in by Pattinson as well, in terms of, you mentioned it in the interview, in terms of following on, a career following on from a huge franchise like Twilight and being taken seriously and all that kind of thing. And I think the last few roles that he's, encompassed very much proved himself.
Yeah, I love the fact that he and Kristen Stewart are at Cannes, walking the red carpet, launching these big, chewy art house films every year. I think that's fantastic. Both of them very, very good actors, very good actors. Kristen Stewart is in a terrific film called Clouds of Sils Maria that was at Cannes this year as well, which is coming out later on. So, the fact that they're making an impact in independent cinema, propelled by Twilight, is great.